It's a beautiful night for football here in South Florida. The New York Jets taking the field for their ball game, their matchup against the Miami Dolphins. Both teams are 0-3 and looking for their first win of the 2025-26 campaign. I'm Eric Allen. Welcome into Pregame Central, presented by USVI. A lot of storylines this evening, but number one for the green and white, Justin Fields returns to the starting lineup. He got a concussion protocol on Friday, so he will make the start. Third start in all. Aaron Gladden talked about Fields this week, saying he's a dynamic runner. He is awfully smart, and also we saw what he can do as a passer in Week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. For the Jets, they're just trying to get over the hump. Last week, a dramatic comeback attempt against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 21 points in the fourth quarter that culminated with Will McDonald's blocked field goal, a scoop and score. But unfortunately, the green and white were unable to secure victory as Chase McLaughlin hit a field goal late, and it was a 29-27 defeat. For the Dolphins, they're coming off a 31-21 loss to the Buffalo Bills last Thursday night in Orchard Park. They've had 10 days to prepare for this ball game. In terms of practice squad elevations for the Jets today, just earlier they elevated Dean Clark as safety. He logged 17 special teams snaps last week against the Buccaneers, had a pair of tackles, so he'll be up for a second consecutive week. And also Michael Walker, a veteran linebacker, he is up for the Jets. So 2 practice squad elevations for the green and white. Now, let's talk about the lineup tonight. Josh Reynolds is going to be available for the Jets for the first time since Week 1, as is Tony Adams. Tony Adams could make a return to the starting lineup. Of course, Malachi Moore, the rookie, there's Tony Adams right now. Malachi Moore, the rookie from Alabama, made the start last week. Jay Tufele also is available for the Jets. 2 players who aren't here, who you won't see on your screen. Jermaine Johnson still dealing with that ankle injury. He is week to week, as is Jarvis Brownlee. Now, that's a cornerback acquisition from the Tennessee Titans. That was a trade from Darren Muji earlier this week. He's dealing with an ankle injury. He started the first 2 games for the Titans this season, was inactive for their game last week against the Indianapolis Colts. All eyes on the Jets linebackers tonight. Quincy Williams and Marcelino McCrary Ball placed on injured reserve last week. So you got Jamie Sherwood. Kiko Mayanoa, a rookie out of Miami, could be making his first professional start for the Jets. He, in fact, played collegiately here for the Miami Hurricanes. In addition to Mayanoa, watch out for guys like Cam Jones, a waiver acquisition from the Kansas City Chiefs, has been primarily a special teams contributor. He could see his reps increase on the defensive side of the ball. The Jets also signed Mark Robinson, a veteran linebacker, off of New England's practice squad. So, again, the linebackers, you're going to see some guys out there for the first time in different situations for the Jets tonight against the Miami Dolphins. Again, we're setting the scene here. Unbelievable evening in terms of weather is concerned, so that's not going to be a factor at all. The Jets had to deal with that heat and humidity last week in Tampa. It's a nice night for football. They're getting warmed up out here on the field again. Justin Fields making his 3rd start of the season for the green and white. Cleared concussion protocol on Friday. Guys warming up out here at Hard Rock Stadium. We are going to be joined by Dan Orlovsky. He's on the call tonight for ESPN. That's how we're going to wrap up today's show. Pregame Central presented by USVI. Also, Anthony Beck, the color analyst on the Jets radio crew, is going to come down here on the Jets sideline in a few moments. As well, Justin Fields, dynamic dual threat quarterback for the Jets. In Week 1, off the charts. Remember, the Jets came out there against the Steelers. They scored on their first 4 drives. Now, for Fields, the last time we saw him in action, that game got away from the Jets against the Bills. But when you're looking at a Miami defense that he'll line up against tonight, this is a defense that has given up 30-plus points in each contest to date. And there's really not a defensive stat that they can hang their hat on right now. It's going to be interesting to see the game plan for the Jets tonight. Last week against the Buccaneers, the Jets scored on their first 2 possessions with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. Then there was a lull mid-game at 23-6. That game did not get away from them. The Jets, in fact, rallied there in the fourth quarter. Their final 2 offensive possessions with Taylor at quarterback resulted in touchdowns to Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard, a great catch in the end zone there. But Fields gets the call tonight again for the Jets. Garrett Wilson so far this season, one of the most productive. You're seeing him work on releases right now. One of the most productive receivers in the National Football League. No surprise there. I mean, you're talking about a guy who, in each of his first 3 seasons, 80-plus receptions and 1,000 yards receiving. Only 5 players in the history of the National Football League have done that. And he had 10 receptions last week against the Buccaneers. Defenses know he's going to get the football. They still can't stop him. When you're talking about this Dolphins secondary, they are banged up at the cornerback position. So I would anticipate Garrett Wilson having a big night again for the green and white. You got Alan Lazard out there right now as well. Anthony Beck now is going to join us. AB, as we're looking at the field right now, what stands out to you about tonight's game? Top storylines.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you already hit it. Obviously, Justin Fields coming back. I mean, how does he get used today, right? I mean, we just talked about it in the little hit upstairs in the radio. Is number one, you got to get a groove. You got to get him in sync with his receivers, get the ball out of his hands quickly. The other thing is, when you look at the Buccaneers film and defense last week, what you see a lot of pressure, right? Guess what this league is? It's a copycat league, right? So you're going to get continuous pressure. Justin Fields going to have a plan. Him and Tanner, who are the hot reads, getting the ball. If they bring 7, the extra guys coming. What does that plan look like? You can't take those shots or those unblocked defenders come through. And then last but not least is he's part of the run structure, right? It's when you pull it and he's got to go, and if it's clean, he still has to be able to do that, but you have to have a conversation and trust that Justin's going to protect himself when those runs come. And then defensively, man, you're down some linebackers and some players, but, man, get in your gaps, be in the right spots, and don't over-pursue. That's been kind of the theme. You've heard AG see it. Don't over-pursue too much in this game. You got to sometimes pause. I never played linebacker, right? But I just know take a second, look at it, and then hit it. Because we got speed, right? I mean, Sherwood, Maui Noah, those guys can run. That's going to at least help us because up front we're playing really well from our big guys.
We're watching Fields warm up right now. You're watching Pregame Central presented by USVI. How do you attack this game plan with him being back in the lineup, and how can the Jets establish a tempo and rhythm that we saw in the fourth quarter last week against the Buccaneers? When you look on paper, on surface, this Miami defense, they have not done too many things well across the board this season.
Well, listen, I mean, numbers, stat-wise, it doesn't look pretty, right? I will say this, the tape does show a team that's improving. Now, how much can they continue to make that push? They're the number 1 percentage blitzing team in the NFL, but that doesn't mean they're having a lot of success with it because they're not, right? So it's 2 things. Either they get home and you don't have a plan for it, which they are coming today. I can guarantee you that, so buckle up for that. Or 2 is you gash them. And when you bring pressure, you can gash defenses if you're on the same page, receivers, the guy that's available, finding the open space. So those things, to me, are vital in this game. And, again, establishing the run, and we all know that the quarterback's part of the run game, but we don't need the quarterback to run, right? So we got to find ways, do we continue to condense the box with 2 tight ends, bring a receiver in, or maybe you widen it out a little bit and now spread things out. So now, Braylon gets to that second level, there's a lot less traffic for them to get through. So, again, it's all chess, right, when you're playing this game.
Shout out to Austin Seabold, who's doing an awesome job on the camera here tonight. AB, you just mentioned it. Condensed formations, perhaps, offensively, or you widen it out. With Fields coming back to the lineup, What would you prefer? And also, how did the Jets get Breece Hall going? He had the 100-yard game against the Steelers, and the Jets really got it going on the ground the last 2 weeks, as you mentioned. Your quarterbacks in Fields against the Bills, in Taylor against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been your leading rushers.
Well, I mean, you got to block better, right? You got to be better. Like week 1, I mean, that was some textbook blocking across the board. Like tight ends, edge guys, receivers, everybody's got to be on it, man. You never know when the ball comes back. Breece, these guys can get to the backside. Receivers got to be alert for those things, and you have to finish your blocks when you're doing it. That will help the run game, obviously. And then when you just talk about, again, when you consistently can stay ahead of the chains and control the tempo. Don't let the Dolphins tonight control the tempo. Get off the field on third downs. Therefore, you can get yourself some more plays on offense, to get it going. I mean, always key, like first series, 2 minutes before the half, coming out that first series, the second half, and then that 4 minutes and 2 minutes at the end of the game. Those are defining moments in the game. What you do in between those things comes down to execution, and that takes more than just one player.
What do you think tonight's going to be like for a pair of rookies? Mason Taylor grew up in South Florida. His dad played for both teams. I know he's going to have a lot of friends and family in the stands. And how about Kiko Maianoa, who could get his first professional start? The Jets dealing with multiple injuries at the linebacker position, and Maianoa played his collegiate ball right here for the Miami Hurricanes.
Well, it wasn't a cheap ticket for those families because clearly they're getting a lot of tickets coming out of their check. I see a lot of Mason Taylor jerseys. I see his mom over here too. So it's a great thing, man. You always want to be great. One thing about Mason, he's a pro, right? He knows what he do. He's in the right spot. And hopefully he's learning and growing after every game. Like, there's so much information for young players to really assess themselves. They're going to get coached hard, right? That's number one, because he's out there. He's a rookie. He's playing. I was there. Like, it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy to block 300-pounders consistently and get the job done. But he's a pro. He knows how to take coaching and be better. And Maui Noah, you're right, man. Like, this is an opportunity for a guy that played a lot of football in Miami, that was really successful, that knows this area, this heat, all those things coming together, man. Just play free. Trust your eyes, and don't get too antsy. I talked about earlier. Don't overcommit yourself. Sometimes you just want to go so much, man. Know your responsibilities. If you're supposed to be back in the C gap because there's corner pressure, be there. If you're supposed to be in the middle and pause or wherever you're supposed to be, just be there. It's all about where you're supposed to be in gap responsibility. Don't let the adrenaline get you in the wrong spot.
So we're watching Sauce Gardner up here to Austin's left warm up the defensive backs as well. In terms of Miami's offense, they got Tyreek Hill. They got Jalen Waddle. They got Malik Washington. We saw Sauce Gardner go one-on-one against Metcalf and then come back against Mike Evans in Week 3. Do you put him on Hill tonight, or would you rather bracket him and maybe put Sauce on Jalen Waddle?
I always think about, when I think about Waddle and Tyreek Hill, you think about, like, who's your best movement in space guy? You know what I'm saying? Because if you look at some of his receptions, it's always like after the route's over and it doesn't fly, like he goes somewhere. And that's another thing about containing the quarterback, keeping him in there, and making sure he doesn't allow that to happen, because they can adjust on the fly. And now he's very tricky to cover because he's so quick and agile. So, again, you can't let him win right off the jump in the initial route. You got to cover him tight. That's where I think Sauce is a factor there, because he's a great cover guy. And then just, not getting too handsy on what you're doing. Stay within your technique, trust what you're doing. And, like when you got a defensive back who's a head coach, those things are preached about and talked about so much with this secondary. So, again, you're going to have those matchups. It's like the speed's going to be there. Just disrupt them at the line of scrimmage if you can, and just stay on their hip and trust where the ball's going to be and make your play on it. I promise they're there more than you think, right? Oh, you always say they're in the right spot. Be in the right spot, make the play, and trust your technique.
AB, a great spot, man. Did you miss being on Pregame Central, huh?
I miss everybody. I mean, it's just me. It's just you right now, but I do miss the crew at home games for sure. But you guys do awesome without me. You don't need me to have success and fly high.
All right, have a great call up there in the booth with shoes. That's Anthony Beck down here in South Florida. It's Week 4 action, Monday Night Football, the Jets and the Dolphins. There's rookie Mason Taylor. What a night it will be for him and his family. Of course, Jason Taylor played both for the Dolphins and the New York Jets, and their friends and their families. Ton of Mason Taylor fans in the building tonight, and also a big night for Kiko Maianoa, who played collegiately here at Miami. He could get his first professional start on the defensive side of the ball. You were watching Pregame Central, presented by USVI. Jets 0-3, Dolphins 0-3. We're going to end tonight here from South Florida with an interview with ESPN's Dan Orlovsky. After the game, make sure you tune in to Jets Overtime. For Austin Seabolt, myself, Anthony Beck, we're signing off, but here's Dan O. Dan, you were at the Jets team hotel last night, and you came away very impressed with the head coach. You took to social media, said, Aaron Glenn, very, very, very impressive.
Yeah, well, the last question we asked him, or I asked him as we were all wrapping up, probably 45 minutes with him, was I looked at him, I said, where's the confidence come from? And he said, what? And I said, where does that confidence come from? And he goes, you're born like this. So he was just really impressive. I think, you know, a lot of coaches, I've been around a lot of coaches, and you hear them talking. A lot of times it's the same message. You know, you want to be detailed, you want to be tough, you want to do the things the right way, and sometimes that gets lost. And then for some reason, the way he was talking, it felt like that was truly a fabric of who he was. It felt like it was a fabric of who he wants the organization to become. And it was one of those, like, he's going to make that a reality for the Jets rather than it's something he's heard along the way to say type of thing. And I just was really impressed when he talked about how personal the job was for him because of that 1998 Jets season. I think the not running from that is very endearing. We asked him, his reference to, like, I don't like fake people and I don't like being around them. I just think players in the locker room love that. And so he seems like he's got the right people around him. Like, I even asked America, I said, okay, 3 games, 2 of them you could say last play, it could be a very different thing, but you're 0-3. So, like, how's the messaging? And he was just point blank, very blunt about it. We have to find ways to win those football games, and it's, close losses aren't cool, even though it's a rebuild. So just a lot of really cool takeaways. It
sounds like you wouldn't mind playing a couple snaps for a guy like Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, playing a couple snaps for him, figuring out how to lead a family, lead a life. So he's an easy guy to root for, and he's an easy guy to sit there and go, at some point it's going to flip for him.
What do you make of the quarterback landscape tonight, starting with the green and white? Justin Fields getting the start after coming out of concussion protocol.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he starts the game early on because, he even said himself, like, the concussion was a little bit jarring to him because the symptoms were more severe than he had anticipated. And just seeing, if he and when he runs, is he physical? Is he, kind of a dynamic athlete, or does he shy away from contact or avoid it? I think how much they're able to run the football, and obviously their play-action game, coming off of the Week 2 game when he missed some throws to start that game that he kind of made in Week 1. Can he get into a rhythm with his accuracy, get the ball out? And then for the opposite side, for Tua, I think Tua, the last 2 weeks has settled into a little bit more of what we've been accustomed to with Tua. Ball came out, he threw it before guys were open. But they have to also run the football because they're in an era right now. It's not 2023, as shocking as that is. Like, teams are going to force them to run the ball and not have some of those gaping gashes across the middle of the field. And I'm looking forward to see if Tua can get the timing back with Tyreek. I love Tua. I'm a big fan of his game. Seems like he's been hesitant to cut the ball loose to Tyreek in the way that he has in the past. So I'll see how that looks early on tonight.
What ultimately is going to decide this thing tonight? You look at the defenses so far this season, they're still finding their ways, and neither of these teams have takeaways.
Will the Dolphins play in a way where everyone has said they can't and won't? Will they physically try to beat up the Jets? Because that's not been a trademark of theirs. I think for their defense, they're going to have to get closer to the football. They've been a bend but don't break defense. They got to get off blocks. Their defensive line has not gotten off blocks this season, so you would think advantage Jets. And then for the Jets defense, that's probably been the thing that's been a little bit most surprising on their tape, coming from Aaron Glenn and Wilkes, who are accomplished coaches. I think, one, they got to leverage the football better on defense. Not everybody needs to run to the ball to the same spot, so leveraging it, I think, Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes said worked on that a lot this week. And then the second thing is they got to communicate at the safety level to not blow coverages. They've blown some coverages that maybe haven't hurt them as much as they could. Miami offensively, shifts, motions, different formations. I think the communication defensively will be really big because if you blow coverages against this team that has the ability to put the ball over your head, that could be bad news. So I think a lot of the simple things, at least on paper, getting done on the field.
Definitely a night when you have to have great eyes